All right, we're live.
We're live.
We're live.
We're live.
It's alive.
It's alive. No, that would have worked yesterday for Halloween, but it's over.
Yeah,
Fine. Damn it.
we missed it by a day.
Damn it.
Not much.
I miss Halloween already. Come back to me. I have to wait for Christmas.
So, speaking of Halloween, did you have a good one, or were you busy with school and stuff? Or
no, actually, it was a pretty nice. It was a pretty nice day. Classes were pretty relaxed, so that was good. I just went out with some friends. I helped with some candy, I guess, so some trick or treaters, and afterwards we went to SeaWorld for like some sort of like Halloween night that they were having over there. So we just stuck around there for like a couple of hours, and that was about it. Cool. Yeah, it was pretty fun though. Yeah, I had a fun Halloween. I enjoyed it.
That's good.
Yeah, first Halloween I had not worn my well, actually not my first, but it's been a while. I had not worn my Godzilla suit like I usually plan to for Halloween. So I just want to ghost face.
Yeah.
It was easy but not cheap. Freaking thing cost me like $35. Mm-hmm. And they didn't even give me no plastic knife. They didn't give me the black gloves that he has. I'm like, just give me the mask and the suit. That's all you give me? You can't give me the extra accessories?
Nope.
You cheated me on my money, DJ. You cheated me on my money, DJ.
Yep, they do that.
Right. Yep. All right. Anyway. Anyway, enough of my financial problems. Let's get to Cromartie, whatever the freak high school.
Cromartie High School.
Okay, yeah, sure. Cromartie High School. All right.
So, yes. So those of you that are tuning in, this week we are talking about the first 14 episodes of Cromartie High School. It's a short anime series. It's 26 episodes total, but each episode's like barely even 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's so crazy to me because I've never watched an anime that's like that short before.
Yeah.
I'm like, huh. I'm like, I wonder what made them just do 11 minutes for each episode, but whatever.
Well, I mean, it is based off of a manga series, so
yeah.
Because like, I think a lot of anime that are based off of mangas, they try to like, do like a whole book or something like that, or like it might be the way that they break it up, like compared to normal ones. I don't know. I think I have the first volume and I haven't read it for some reason. So I need to do that. But this is a series that I stumbled on a long time ago. A friend of mine and I went to an anime convention, and I think the company that produced the ADV had a room where they were like showing stuff and giving things away and everything like that. And so we went in there to see what was going on, and we got to see a couple episodes, and we were just laughing our butts off. So I ended up picking up the whole box set because I just thought it was funny, and I've enjoyed it. I rewatch it a lot. Granted, it's been a little while since I last watched it, but for me, it's just a fun series to watch. Yeah. It always makes me laugh. So that's why I wanted to introduce it to my good friend Remy. Change up the pace of what we've been going through. We've been dealing with a lot of seriousness and with little comedy tidbits here and there, but serious themes and consequences and stuff like that. So thought it was a good opportunity for us to take a step back, watch something that just like even makes fun of itself for how goofy and dumb it is. Yeah. And points, and it makes fun of some of the tropes in animes and different series and things like that. And a lot of it kind of reminds me of some of the just the shenanigans that Monty Python when they were doing their TV series, The Flying Circus, just some of the skits that they came up with. Like you're watching an episode, and like one of their skits is like one of these episodes.
Yeah.
So
Monty Python's Flying. Yes.
So our main character for the series is a guy named Takashi Kamiyama. And he's basically supposed to be like the most normal guy in this school. Cromartie High School is, as they claim it, a school of delinquents.
Yeah.
So everybody in the school is supposed to be a badass and can beat everybody up and, you know,
Thumbs.
tough as nails, and they all look like they're in their mid-20s or whatever, but they're all supposed to be 16 years old. Like every
Which,
character is 16 years old.
yeah, I don't believe that one bit. You know, the designs. I'm like, no, you all are grown ass adults. I have no idea what you're saying. You're 16 years old. What? But that's anime in general, though. They draw like their 16-year-old characters as like full on adults. You're like, why? Just make them older if you're just gonna draw them like that.
And then every once in a while, you'll get a full-grown adult that's like in their mid-20s or whatever, and they make them look like they're 10.
Yeah. Or, you know, they'll do like the classic thing in fantasy where it's like they have like this little girl and she's like 1,000 years old. And you're like, what the okay, sure.
There's actually a series called Tengo Tenji where one of the main characters is a woman, and they're in high school. And again, they look like they're adults. But one of the women, like, to contain her power, she shrinks down to the size of a child. So if you've ever seen Bleach, you know, Kenpachi, have you seen Bleach?
No, not really.
Okay.
I know about
I'm
Bleach.
sure you've seen the character. Kenpachi's the guy that has like the big spiked hair with bells on him, and he's got like an eye patch and scars and everything.
Yeah, he does sound familiar.
Okay. He always has like this little girl on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, in Tengo Tenji, this main girl shrinks herself down to like the same size as that girl.
Yeah.
But when she's ready to like actually fight and get serious about it, she grows into like a full grown woman. And it's like, and her outfit doesn't grow or shrink with her. So, so like the robes that are like very poofy and stuff on her as a kid are very tight and revealing on her as an adult.
Yeah, I had a feeling. Yeah. No, that's a classic trope too in other animes. I've seen that done before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, back to Cromartie
Yes.
High. So like I was saying, our main character, main hero is Takashi Kamiyama. The guy that ends up being his best friend essentially in the series is a guy named Hayashida.
Yeah.
And he has a purple mohawk that's apparently a cap. Because there's an episode where they have to have school physicals, and they're all the guys are told to take their clothes off, and you see him, like, he took his shirt off, you see him pull his pants, like somebody's pulling their pants down. He takes his cap off, and he's got a full head of like normal hair on underneath. But when he's wearing, so when he has it on, like, it has a life of its own.
And just goes.
So he's moving around and doing stuff.
I'm like watching it. I'm like, what the hell is it doing? I'm like, what is going on with this thing? The animators are having too much fun with this show. Yeah. That's the thing. I'm like, what the fuck? There's like literally a scene where it's like just the two of them walking back and forth in the same animation loop. And I'm like, what the what? I'm like, wow.
And they're literally just talking about how boring school is.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I don't think interesting is happening. Well, freaking Freddie Mercury, some guy who looks like Freddie Mercury is riding a giant ass horse across the campus.
That's chewing on the head of a guy named Maeda.
Yeah. And he's like, he's chewing on my head. And they're just staring at him.
And it keeps going back and forth, and they're like, yeah, that happens all the time. And Maeda's like, no, it doesn't.
Like, no, it doesn't. Yeah. No, it doesn't. So, yeah.
So what's interesting about this Maeda character is, one, he's blonde for some reason.
Yeah.
And like in the first episode, huh?
I was gonna say it makes him stick out more, I guess.
Yeah.
As like a character.
And in the first episode, like after they introduce Kamiyama, like some of the other guys start talking about like how much of a badass they were in middle school and these nicknames that they got. And Maeda's like, well, I was fighting from dawn to dusk and nobody could beat me and I never gave up. And I don't believe in talking things out and stuff. And they're like, oh, that's cool. What was your nickname? And he's like, I never had one. And they're like, well, then you ain't tough, man. Get out of here. And he's like always getting captured by other schools and beat up.
I know.
And then anytime that they want to have a meeting, they choose his house to go to. And
Yeah,
he's
he's
like,
like,
why
why
do
are
you
you
people
keep going to my house? They're like,
like,
you get some friends, dude. He's like, I don't have any friends.
well, not with that attitude.
Yeah, he's like, well, you gotta fix that, dude. He's like, you're right, I should fix that. And he's like, wait a minute.
um, and so we mentioned Freddy. So they have a character. So like Hayashida takes Kamiyama and's like, hey, you got to check out this guy. He's crazy. And he's like, okay, sure, whatever. And they open up the door to another classroom, and standing there is a guy that looks like a muscle bound Freddie Mercury with a mustache and no shirt on, just suspenders and pants. And,
Yeah, and the pants, and that's
and he never speaks.
yeah.
He doesn't talk, but he's like invincible.
He's he's just nothing. He's just strong but mysterious at the same time. You're like,
Yeah.
what?
And they're like, is he even a student? Like, is he even Japanese?
Like, we don't know. He just shows up here and he just stays and he just chills out in the classes with us. Like, okay. Sure.
There's another guy later on in the series that comes in and he's like trying to take over schools left and right. And he's like, I'm going to kick this guy out. And then he's like, and his little lackey's like, but he looks like the kind of guy that would just come back like nothing happened. He's like, then I have no power over him.
Is that the guy who comes up with that lie that says like his dad is like some evil mastermind and that he's trying to take him down? Is that him? Okay, yeah. No, I remember
that's Takeshi Hokuto.
Yeah, he's like, I'm gonna take this school over. And freaking opens the door, and then Freddie Mercury guy standing right there, and he just goes like this, closes it, and he's like, I know what, I think I'm good.
And his lackey's like, what do you mean? And he's like, you gotta see this.
Yeah, he's like, oh, it can't look that scary. He opens it up.
Gorilla.
Yep.
Or no. First it was Freddy in his seat, and Kamiyama and Hayashida were just slapping him.
Yeah, but it was like this. Come on, Freddy, do something. And the guy says, he just closes the door again, and then he opens it up, and then there's a gorilla. Yeah, speaking of which, yeah, there's a random gorilla that is also there too. Not wearing a freaking
and he has a watch.
Yeah, just a gorilla, just a regular bald gorilla, just in the classroom.
That has a watch but no uniform.
Exactly. Why is he there? Who knows? Why is he staying at a school? Why is a gorilla there? Who cares? And who knows? Because they don't explain it to you. They do not give any explanation to anything in this show. So do not try to rationalize it. The same thing with freaking Mekazawa. Do not try to rationalize fucking Mekazawa.
Yes, Mekazawa is a robot that apparently doesn't know that he's a robot, and
no one questions him either. Yeah, they're just like, by the way, Mekazawa, your head's pretty big, or like, by the way, your top button's missing, and it's just like, how about the fact that he's a robot? How about you explain that fact?
And then, like, a couple guys come to him with their electronic devices, like, hey, Mekazawa, can you help me out? And he's like, oh, I'm all thumbs with electronics.
Yeah, he's like, what makes you think that I would be good with electronics? And they're like, well, our two main characters are just like,
just say it.
What the hell you mean? You're a robot. And then Mekazawa also apparently has a little brother, which they freaking massacre.
Yeah, constantly.
Yeah, it's just there's this scene where they're like, one of them's like opening a can, and they're like, dude, and he like looks down and he's opening up Mekazawa's little brother, and he's like, oh.
And when they first introduce him, like, Mekazawa's like, yeah, this is my little brother. He's really cool and everything. And then, like, I think the gorilla steps on him.
Yeah.
And so they take him to the hospital, which is an electronics shop, and he gets repaired. And comes back and he's like smaller and everything. And Hayashida's like, yeah, we could use him in a fight. And they're like, and Kamiyama's like, how? He's like, watch this. Throws him up against the wall and dents him. And turns out he's like a cell phone now and everything. Funny. So what makes the series even more interesting is there's apparently two other rival schools.
Yeah.
That hate Cromartie High. Like, they don't talk about each other. One of them is Destrata, and the other one is Bass High.
Mhm.
And both of them just have it all like completely out for Cromartie for some reason. And uh, so Mayetta, like we said earlier, keeps getting captured. I think by Bass High the most.
I think so. Yeah, because the other one, because which one has the guy who just wants to be a comedian?
That's Destrata.
Yeah, so it might just be Bastion because Australia they rarely do anything to
Yeah, they
Cromartie.
talk about doing stuff.
Yeah, but then they
Talk
don't.
about going after Cromartie,
Yeah,
but they never do because the leader's more focused on his comedy routine.
yeah. Which honestly, he's probably like one of my favorite characters. Honestly, I think I like him the best
Yeah,
because it's just funny because like the rest of them are just wanting to start trouble, and he's just like, I think of a good joke. What would be a good joke today? That's all he thinks about.
and then
And his hair like shrivels and grows and shrinks. His big old
yeah, he's
afro.
got a afro that even in the have you watched the opening credits?
I think so. Yeah.
So in the opening credits, he's like they start off showing him with his zoomed into his face, and then as they branch out, his afro is so big, like 5 or 6 other guys are standing under it like it's a tree
Yeah,
branch.
I remember seeing that visual. Yeah.
And then of course a bunch of birds fly out of his hair. Um, but yeah. So what's funny about uh Destrata and and this guy is he's got a second like this other guy named Ishikawa who like says jokes and but he does more like off the cuff, kind of off color jokes, at least
Mhm.
according to the guy. I'm trying to find his name. I got it. Yamaguchi.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the leader of Destrata. So he because he's so focused on his comedy routine and he thinks that he's very critical of like other people with their comedy and stuff like that. And so when Ishikawa like says one of his jokes or whatever, everybody else is laughing.
And then he just pummels him.
Yeah. And then everybody else is like, "Oh man, he doesn't like jokes. We better not say anything." And he's like, "No, I love
You're not
comedy."
be funny. And the realization or the reality is just like, no, I do love comedy. I just hate your jokes.
Yeah, but he never
You're not,
says it out loud.
yeah, he's like trying to keep it secret, but he's just like, there's no finesse. There's no good. There's like no quality to your jokes. It's just crass.
Um, oh, and then there's one episode that's entirely dedicated to them trying to figure out a song that somebody was humming.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how goofy this series is. They
yeah,
they start off in a bathroom, and Makazawa comes out of a stall humming a tune,
yeah.
and uh,
That's half the episode. I'm not even kidding, guys. That is literally half the episode dialogue. It's just them humming, and they have an entire choir at the end of the episode where they're just humming, and they never figure out what the song is. I cannot lie. That joke got old pretty fast, and I was just like, okay, end it. Enough. Next episode, please. My God.
at
I
least
was
it
like,
was just that one episode.
yeah, at least. Thank God.
But so finally around episode 5 we get introduced to like apparently the main leader of Cromartie High, which is Takanuchi.
Yes.
And but he's got a major weakness in that he gets motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
And with episode 5 we like at the beginning of episode 4 he pops up and he's like, "I want into the series, come on."
Yeah. He's like waiting for it.
So episode 5 we finally get a proper introduction to him, and we're introduced to him because they're going on a field trip on a school bus or on a city bus. and he's sitting in the very back by himself on a bench seat, and he's like trying to focus on not throwing up.
Yeah.
He tells the audience like, I've made it this far, this many years with never throwing up, despite the fact that I'm always sick when I'm in a vehicle. And of course, our main character has to goofily come dancing up, because he's so excited to be on a trip, and then sits like, it's obviously been traveling for a while.
Yeah.
And it's like, where has he been this whole time? But now he comes up and he sits down and he sits in Takanuchi's lap.
And Takanuchi's just like, oh god, get him off. But if he moves, I might throw up.
So, of course, they hit. So then, Kamiyama is wearing, for some reason, he's wearing like a birthday hat cone, and he takes it off because he's like, it's rude to wear a hat in front of somebody or whatever. But he's still sitting in the guy's lap.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they hit a bunch of bumpy roads, so Kamiyama's like bouncing all around on top of him, making him even worse.
Takanuchi's just trying to survive this whole time.
And then, to finish it off, Kamiyama's like, oh, I understand. Like, I get this way too when I'm hungry. Then he pulls out a pudding, and he's like, yeah, it might be a little warm though.
Yeah, this is my mom's pudding. It always makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Takanuchi's like, I don't want pudding. Not good.
So apparently that was enough to make him throw up for the first time in his life.
Yeah.
Which
which
thankfully they don't show.
Yeah.
But they allude to. And of course, everybody's oblivious to everything about it. And then the second half of the episode, they Kamiyama and Hayashida grab Takanuchi to help them rescue Maeda because, of course, he was captured again.
Yeah, and they're like, quick, let's take a taxi. And he's like, wait, what?
It's like 20 minutes away. We could walk there.
Yeah, he's just like, it's a beautiful day out, guys. You should just walk there. But they're like, no, that would take up too much time. We must go now. So then they get into the freaking taxi, and then they're just like, okay, wait, which way is it to save Maeda? And he's like, I thought you knew. And he's like, no, we didn't know. No, he said, and like they just start. They eventually get lost, and they're like totally out of the city at this point. They're like in the countryside or some shit. And
yeah, because the taxi driver doesn't know where he's going.
Yeah,
and he accidentally drives back to his parents'
like,
house.
Oh, I haven't been to Japan before. This is new for me. And it's just like, why would you get into a taxi? Okay.
And to top it all off, Freddy's in the car with them too for some reason.
Yeah, he's there too. I think he's in the passenger seat.
Front passenger seat, yeah.
Yeah, the front passenger seat. He's there. And Freddy, MVP here, has the map, and he actually points them in the right direction back to the city.
The caveat to the map is it's a 1981 world map.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
So because somehow...
Yeah, because the main character mentions like, oh, look at that. Even the USSR is still on here. It's just like, oh my God. It's like Takanuchi's just suffering the entire time because they're in a freaking taxi. So he's just like, oh my God. And he's like questioning. He's like, why would we put ourselves in a taxi? We could have watched. We could have already been there to save him. You guys are saying it's so serious. I'm wasting time.
And Kamiyama was like, yeah, we failed.
We failed. Sorry, Takanuchi.
And what's funny is somehow with this 1981 world map, Freddy's able to direct them back to their school, which causes Takanuchi to beat him up because he's like, this is our school, you moron.
Exactly. He's like, we're just kids. Yeah, so that's one of the episodes.
Yeah.
See, that's the kind of dumb plot you guys can expect from this show.
When you're watching and hearing them, going at each other, you're gonna laugh.
Yeah.
And then we mentioned him before, but we get after that episode, we get introduced to Takashi Hokuto, whose father is apparently like the president of the school board, And somehow the 16-year-old has been transferring to multiple schools and taking over by using his father's power to like kick people that he doesn't like out and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so he transfers into Cromartie High, not realizing that it's not part of his father's school board system. So by the time he realizes it, he's already said too much about stuff like you were talking about earlier, and ends up starting to make up lies. And our two heroes, Kamiyama and Hayashida, fall for it
Yeah.
and pop up later on in like full on uniforms to be a part of his army.
And he's like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "We're gonna help you fight for justice." And he's like, "No, He's like, "No, you can't. We don't have to. It's fine. It's taken care of, or whatever."
Yeah.
He's like, "I can handle it myself," or something like that. And it's just nothing but shenanigans the entire episode of him trying to explain it to them. It's like, no, because like they don't realize that they're dumb, so they keep just making up lies, thinking that they'll not fall for it, but they do, and so they're just stuck in an endless loop the entire time.
Yeah. And at one point, at one point, Hayashida points at him when he's like talking about his dad being on the school board and everything, and they point out that they're like pointing out to him that they're not part of that system. They're like, point number one, and literally like point right at him and go, "Your uniform is different than ours." And he's like, "Oh my gosh, it is."
He's like, "It is." He's even surprised by it. Like, yeah, you didn't know that. Look at the difference in uniform, buddy.
And it's not like a little difference, like a different shade of black or something. It's pure white.
Yeah, no, he's in a completely like white suit.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So, let's see. Then we get introduced to apparently a popular TV show in their neighborhood called Puton.
Oh God, not this. Oh God, yeah, I just remembered that.
Which is two guys dressed in these like furry outfits with their regular faces poking out
Yeah,
of
yeah, that kind of look like, yeah, it's weird looking.
you can't really make, they're kind of like rabbit gerbil hybrids or something like that.
Yeah, like pig things or whatever. I don't know. You can't, yeah, you can't make out what they are. They just look weird.
So one guy, Puton, is in like a white bunny kind of costume, and his partner is in like a pinkish, colorish, whatever. And the partner's like always getting pissed off at Puton because Puton just very monotone and like, yeah, that's okay. And he's
Yeah,
like,
he's pretty questioning.
react.
Yeah, he says like, "Oh my gosh, Puton," but then like blah 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 blah, or like something like some situation comes up, and then Puton just responds by just saying, "Yeah, that is strange," and then it just goes like, "That was Puton, enjoy."
Yeah.
And that's the end of the episode. And the guy, the boss who is in love with comedy,
Yamaguchi.
yeah, Yamaguchi, that character, he's the entire episode. He's just trying to dissect why everybody likes that show so much. He's just like, what am I missing?
And at first he thinks it's the costumes, but then like
There's
literally
yeah, there's, yeah,
literally
there's
2 seconds later they take their
a,
costumes off and they're like, now for our most popular part, conversations with Pooh and Boo. And he's like, "Ah!"
I know he's just like looking at the TV. He's like, no. He's like, no.
And then he finds out, oh, we forgot to mention earlier. So one of his comedy tropes that he does is he sends in postcards with jokes on them to late night radio talk shows.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of the times that him and his gang from Destrati are like plotting to attack Cromartie, they're in a coffee shop that is apparently frequented by Cromartie. And Kamiyama and Hashida are on the other side of the booth that they're sitting in. And he overhears them talking and realizes that his rival is Kamiyama.
Yeah, because
And
Kame is underneath the pen name
Honey Boy.
Yeah, Honey Boy.
Yeah. And so he overhears Kamiyama's newest joke, and writes it on a postcard and like priority mails it in. And when they read it at the end of the episode, they're like, "Man, this is a dud." And then
Yeah,
they point out,
no,
like, he even
yeah, there's like no laughing or anything. Yamaguchi's just like, damn it.
so
And yeah,
the reason why I point that out is because again, we have a similar situation where Kamiyama and Hayashida are in a booth on the other side of Yamaguchi, and they're talking about Putan, and and Kamiyama mentions how much he likes the show, and that drives Yamaguchi even crazier because he's like, if my rival likes it, I got to figure out what it is that he likes so much about it. Because he's like even fantasizing about like approaching Kamiyama to like form a comedy duo, and like arguing with himself about how stupid that is. So, but yeah, that's pretty much like episode 7, and then at the like tail end of it, Kamiyama bumps into his old school friend Tabata, which
he was like this like very like pastely drawn character. Like he's just like a round head, and he's just like there's like no detail on him like whatsoever. He's just a very plain, like stick figure kind of character. Like he literally looks like, what did he remind me of? Oh, the freaking Canadians from South Park. He literally looks like one of them.
Yeah. And then, but what's funny is like they kind of go back and forth, close up shots of their faces, and then they zoom out and do a side by side, and like Kamiyama's in like daylight and like a suburb, and Tabata's like in night in a city. Yeah, and it's like both the night and day are like fighting with each other for dominance, and then as Tabata walks away, it sounds like he's a giant mech.
Yeah, it's just like it's like what the I'm like what why does he sound like a Jaeger walking through the city? What's happening?
So and then episode 8 is the school physical day, and we get a doctor and he's like, okay, school physicals, nothing to it, yeah, these kids are a little weird, but nothing I can't handle.
He comes across Freddy.
he meets Freddy. He meets Mekazawa. And after Mekazawa, he's starting to lose it. And then he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if there was like a beer or something. But, hopefully it's just a gorilla. Because that I can handle. And then he turns around and the gorilla's there. And he's like, oh, wouldn't you look? It's a gorilla. And he like goes insane and almost jumps off the roof of the school.
I thought he did though. Didn't he actually jump off? I think he did. I think he does though.
I know his assistant his assistant pops up before he does.
Yeah, I think he jumps not out of the roof. I think he just jumps out the window.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't take it anymore. He's like, just leaps out of there.
So, and then Mekazawa's all distraught because the doctor tells him that he has to go to a different specialist and sends him to a specialist hospital, which turns out to be an electronics store. Yeah. And Kamiyama is like, yeah, doctors sometimes work at electronics stores in their free time.
It's like, okay, sure.
And Mekazawa falls for it.
Yeah, he's just like, okay, if you say so, doc. And he just goes over to the store. And they're like, huh. They're like, all right.
And so he gets tuned up because they don't know anything about a warranty or anything like that. And Mekazawa's like, what's this guy talking about? He's freaking me out, man. Like, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah, there's like a little freaking hand turns like a little spinning drill. He does that in a later episode too, where somebody's like talking smack to him. He's like this, oh, you want to take it outside? And he starts spinning. His voice gets all deep and gravelly.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll cut you. I'm like, all right, calm down.
So after the electronics store clerk finishes working on him, his like memories reset to default. It gets fixed later on, but in like the next episode, he's back to normal. But it's just funny because again, he's a robot and he doesn't know it. And then we also get the first of many birthday parties that get thrown at Maeda's house for everybody but Maeda.
Yeah.
The first one they do is they throw a party for Freddy, and Maya's like, "Does anybody even know when Freddy's birthday is?" And they're like, "No, that's why we're throwing it today."
Trying to make a lucky guess.
And then they have another party for Takanuchi, but they have it on a houseboat, so of course he's getting sick.
Yeah.
And then, like a minute later, they're having they meet at Maeda's house again to determine who's the strongest. And he's like, "Why do you guys keep coming here? Leave me alone."
Exactly. And then eventually they meet his mom as
Which
well.
looks exactly like him, but with a wig.
Yeah. And yeah, his mom does not talk at all, by the way. She's
No.
just very quiet and just stares at them.
And she's like big too.
Yeah, she's like freaking muscular.
Yeah. So then it goes right into the next episode where they're meeting at Maeda's house again, but this time they're celebrating his birthday, which he's really excited about, but he's also pissed off at him because they're a month late.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is the episode where Makazawa brings his baby brother, all that.
Yeah, and we talked about that. They just mess up that baby throughout the entire episode.
And so after the second time that he gets squished, Makazawa comes and he's like, "Hey, where's my brother?" And they paint a tea can to look like his baby brother.
Oh my god, that's right.
And they try to pull it off, and then Hayashita's like, "Hey, you want some tea?" And he takes the lid off, and he's like,
Yeah,
"What are you doing to my brother?"
I was just like, "What are you doing to my back?" He's like,
And
getting
then
all pissed off.
and he goes to kill Hayashita, and Hayashita just turns him off. And Kamiyama's like, "Dude, you've gone too far."
And then that's where the episode just ends.
Well, so after they turn Makazawa off, they put him in a closet to keep him until they could get his actual baby brother back. And then when they get the brother back, Maeda calls him on the baby brother. And they're like, "How did he get this number?" And Maeda's like, "Makazawa's gone. I can't find him." So they go to the house and they're like, "What the heck? What happened?" And then they're like, "Well, let's go get some tea." So they head to the kitchen, and right at the very end, they realize that the mom found him and turned him into a refrigerator.
Yeah. Which will not be the only time Mekazawa is turned into something else.
Something. Yeah. So then we get at the start of the next episode, we get Bass High, their tough fighter team debating on whether they should go and fight Cromartie and stuff. And the leader, like the second in command, notices that the leader has a nose hair sticking way out.
Yeah, he's just like, why is there a nose hair there? Like,
and then the leader like goes like that with his nose, and then it switches to the other nostril.
Yeah, and he goes to the other side. He's like, what? How did that happen?
And then he's like sitting there messing with his nose, and he's like, all right, he's getting rid of it. And when he finally moves his hand, he's got like a bushel of nose hair sticking out of his nose.
Yeah, he's just like, well, great.
And then the narrator's like, yeah. And then the second command has the nose hair sticking out, but he doesn't know it.
Yep. So then, like, he sends. What happened exactly?
So the second in command goes to
Cromartie, right?
Well, this is where we get the Kamiyama and Hayashida doing the discussion about how boring their school is.
Yeah, and that's why we have the loop animation there, and that's where we see Freddy on the horse and everything like that. And then
at the end, the second in command is at Cromartie, with a bunch of other guys, and they keep calling.
They keep calling the main boss, who, by the way, has Maeda tied up again.
Yeah. And they're like, "You're not going to believe it. There's these huge horse hooves that are like the size of an elephant." And the leader's like, "There's a what? An elephant?"
Because he's thinking that there's like a hybrid of an elephant and a horse. And he's like, "Well, which one is it? Is it a horse or a hybrid?" He's like, What did I just tell you? I just told you it was a freaking horse.
And so it turns and asks Maeda, does your school have a horse? And he's like, no, our school doesn't have a horse, but there's a guy named Freddie that occasionally rides one in. It's like, what?
And the freaking main leader just looks at him like this. And then he just goes back to talking.
And then the second in command's freaking out again because they found Mekazawa, but they thought he was a vending machine that wouldn't like take their cards. He's like, what are you people doing?
He's like, what are you doing?
And then they discover the gorilla, and then a meteor lands, and aliens come out. And they're like,
no, I love the exchange because he's like, oh my god, I saw something worse. And he's like, okay, what could possibly be worse? All right, like, what if you saw aliens? And yeah, sure, I believe you. And the second commander just says, oh, how'd you know it was aliens? And then the first commander goes, you know what? We're done. Get back here.
and as they're wrapping up, because the whole time they were there to find Takanuchi to fight him. And so as they're wrapping up, you see Kamiyama and Hayashida walking with Freddy on his horse, Mekazawa, the gorilla, and the alien, like all walking out as a group away from the
they're all like walking off into the horizon like a freaking end of a cowboy movie. And you're like, what the okay.
So episode 11 deals with Cromartie having a field trip to America.
Yeah, and they're at the airport, and then freaking Takanuchi is just like, he's like, great, now I have to get on a freaking airplane. Are you kidding me? But at the same time, he's thinking that he overhears these two thugs like planning to do like a robbery on the plane.
A hijack.
Yeah,
they want to hijack the plane.
Yeah, you're right. A hijack on the plane. And Takanuchi's just like, oh, that's a serious crime. I can't let that happen. Ah! And like literally yells at them. He's like, I can hear you.
And then they start freaking out because there's so many people around. So he yells at everybody else and gets them out of the
he's like, hey, get out! And then everybody gets out. And it's just them three in the airport.
So then they get on the plane.
Yeah, so they get on the plane. They're like, oh, wow, he's a really tough guy. We should make him an accomplice. Like, well, don't worry, boss. We'll do whatever you say. And he's like, don't call me your boss. He's just getting all annoyed with them.
And so then Takanuchi ends up in America wandering around for some reason. He's like in the desert of Nevada just on his own. And everybody's back at the school because the field trip was canceled because of the hijacking.
Yeah.
And what makes it even more interesting is like a couple of the guys are like, I feel like we're forgetting something. And then they go to say, hey, Takanuchi, what do you think about this? And it's actually one of the hijackers still wearing his mask.
Yeah.
But he just has like this kanji that says like Taki or something like that. So they think it's Takanuchi.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like getting, I forget, I don't know how they get to it, but they start having like a conversation about like fighting or something like that.
Yeah.
The guy is just has a cool conversation. It's like, oh, I've been charged for almost like 16 years or so, whatever, like that. And he's like, you guys don't want to mess up your second chance at life. And they're like, wait a second, how old? Wait a second, 16 years. 16? Like, how long have you been doing crime then?
Yeah.
So this makes you think that Takanuchi has been doing thousands of crimes since he's like a child, like a little toddler.
And then like part of that whole conversation started because they got a call from Bass High saying that they had Maeda again.
Yeah.
And so the hijacker that's pretending to be Takanuchi gives him the story about how when he was in prison, he got these trick rings and he kept trying to just pull them apart, but no matter how strongly he pulled, he couldn't get it. And then finally, when he got to like the Zen moment, they came apart. And he's like, you got to have a calm mind to do it. And like a couple of the other guys try to do it, and they can't get them apart and everything. And so he's like talking and bragging about it. And then he hears the rings come apart. And he's like, somebody else with the Zen-like mind that was able to tame the beast. And he turns around and it's the gorilla.
Yeah, it's a great film.
And he's holding both. He's just like,
Yeah.
And at the very end of the episode, Bass High is asking Maeda, like, why does nobody ever come and rescue you? He's like, I'm wondering that myself.
Yeah, exactly. No, and like throughout the episode, you just have random cutbacks to Takanuchi, just like thinking to himself, and he's like, I wonder if my friends miss me. But then, of course, they don't even realize that he's gone. And
Yeah.
then the second part I laughed at was like, look at all these stars. He's like laying on the ground. He's like, look at all these stars. I wonder if my friends are looking up at the stars as well. And it just cuts back to one of them just giving a random fact. It's like,
Hayashida.
yeah, how you do it. He's like, well, the time zones for the U.S. and Japan are very different, and it's just like 1 p.m. on the side.
Yeah.
And the main character, what's his name again?
Kamiyama.
Yeah, Kamiyama is just like, why do you remember such the random stuff? And like, yeah, so yeah, but that's like episode 11. So yeah, that was pretty fun. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then episode 12 is where we get Mekazawa threatening to kill people with his drill hand because they keep confusing him with lockers.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes wandering off, plays a pachinko machine and wins, but it doesn't distribute his winnings. So he gets pissed off and he's like, I'm just gonna go down this rabbit hole. I'm just gonna go all out. And then an attendant comes up and is like, is there something wrong? And he's like, yeah, I won and it didn't give me my prize. And so the attendant starts doing maintenance on Mekazawa.
It's like, oh, me, you fool machine.
And then somebody comes up
with the card.
Yeah, tries to put a ATM card into him. And he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because I was getting pissed off the entire time.
And then to calm himself down, he goes for a motorcycle ride. And then Kamiyama and Hayashida are walking down the sidewalk, and they're like, one of them's like, hey, what would be the craziest thing that could happen in your mind right now? And he's like, the craziest thing would be to see Mekazawa on a motorcycle driving right past us.
And lo and behold, Mekazawa comes by on the motorcycle
and then turns
goes down the alleyway
and crashes.
And then they come up, yeah, they find him torn apart and whatever. They're like, all right, we need to rebuild him. So then they rebuild him
into a
motorcycle.
And instead of having like actual motorcycle sounds when he's running,
it's just
it's some guy that's making the noises.
It's Mekazawa, I think, making the sounds. It's just him going like rum, rum.
And somehow he's able to shoot missiles now.
Yeah. Because Kamiyama takes him for a spin. And he saves this one chick from like a couple I think it's from Bass, right? Is it from Bass? Yeah, the guy's from Bass. And shoots a missile at them. And he's like, I'm gonna keep shooting another. I'm gonna keep pressing buttons and stuff. And they're like, oh my god, this guy's crazy. He doesn't have any sort of control. We'll get you next time. And they run away. And he's like, you're safe now, ma'am. But the police are here. But they were too late. I already vanquished the evildoers.
And then he ends up in jail.
Yeah, and then they put him in jail, and he's like,
with Mekazawa the motorcycle.
Yeah. So they fit Mekazawa as a motorcycle into an entire police cell, a jail cell, along with Kamiyama. I don't get it. Whatever. Freaking episode 13, which honestly I thought this is actually probably one of the funnier episodes.
Because Hayashida tells everybody at the beginning that he wants to play baseball.
Yeah, and he's like, I can do it all on my own. And Maeda's like, no, you need 9 people to play a game. They can't do it by yourself. And they're like, on Maeda, they're like, man, don't have any of that talk. It's like, no, it's just factual.
It's the rules.
Exactly.
They're like, well, rules are meant to be broken. That's how you create new things. And he's like, not for baseball.
Yeah, and so they're like, all right, fine, we'll put it together a team. So they get the gorilla. Mekazawa is the freaking... Still a motorcycle, by the way. He hasn't changed. He's still a motorcycle. Freddy. Who else do they get? The guy in the white...
Maeda and Maeda's mom.
Yeah, Maeda's mom.
Hokuto, but not his lackey.
Yeah, they get him too, so that's 6. And then I'm going to guess
Kamiyama and Hayashida.
Kamiyama. Yeah.
Maeda.
And yeah. So that's 9 people at least or something. that they
Yeah.
get. And so they like go out to like the woods in order to like actually like play their game.
Well,
Is it?
before they go to the woods, they're like, "Well, we don't have any equipment, so what can we use?" And somebody's like, "Oh, well, we could use wooden swords as bats."
That's the guy in the
They're like,
white suit. He says that. He suggests
"Yeah,"
that.
and then they're like, "Yeah," and then we could just like wrap gauze around our midsection for padding. And next thing you know, it shows them all in prison with like uh
Yeah,
respirator
the
masks
mask
on,
on. Yeah,
helmets. And they're like, "Yeah, who known that we wouldn't be allowed to do that?" Then they go to the woods to practice
yeah,
and get lost
yeah. They get lost. They don't know where they are, and
for
they're like,
days.
yeah, for days, mind you. They're lost like for days. But as they're lost, Freddy just ups and leaves them for a bit. He's like a whole montage, like a short montage of him walking over this bridge, climbing down a mountain, going through like some high grass, and he just comes across this random ramen shop in the middle of the woods, and he pops in. Which also he's been to this ramen shop countless of times because I know who he is and I know what he likes for his order. So
Yeah,
then he just eats the ramen, gives them the money, and just leaves and heads back the same way. And the guys in the shop are like, "That's a nice guy." And he pays his bill. But where does he live? And so they're like just questioning the entire time.
because he
But
goes there for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
yeah, that's right. He comes for all 3 times of the day, and he comes back, and the guys are still in the circle, figuring out what to do. And Freddy's just like,
And
like a
then,
no.
and then finally on day 4, after he came back one time, he has what's called a fish cake on the side of his face, and they're like,
Yeah,
"Where'd that come from?"
they're like, there must be food nearby. So they start scavenging around, and all they grab is some freaking pine cones, and some mushrooms,
And twigs.
and twigs.
So, and then all of a sudden, Hayashida pops up, and he's like, "Guys, I found food. I found a convenience store." And so he's like passing food around and everything like that. And Kamiyama's like, "Dude, did you bring any hot water?" And apparently, all the food that he got all required like hot water to make.
Oh, great.
So they chew him out for that. And then, so then at like day 5, they still haven't like eaten anything or whatever. And they're like, "Well, we came out here to practice baseball, so let's practice baseball."
They practice, and they immediately lose the ball.
Yeah.
They
First
like,
pitch, Freddie hits it for like a grand slam. And so Hayashida's like, "I'll go get it." So he runs after it.
and it's the same montage, but with him that we saw with Freddy, but it's the same montage of him with Hayashida crossing the bridge, climbing that mountain, going through the grass, and he comes across a ramen shop, and he's like, "Oh my goodness, other people." He's like, "Hey, can you give us
Can
our
you hand
ball?"
me the ball?
And it's like you. I saw that. I just went, "You, the ramen." Okay.
So he comes back and they yell at him again for not getting help.
Yeah, they're
And
like,
then,
"Why would you not ask for help?" And he's like, "What? How was I supposed to know? I forgot."
so then the gorilla starts motioning to him. So they start following the gorilla through the woods. And it like climbs trees and everything. And they're walking, and hours go by, and then they finally see lights. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, we got back to civilization!" And so they run up to thank the gorilla, and it's a girl gorilla.
Yeah, it's not the same gorilla that they were.
They're like, "Where's ours?"
Where's our gorilla? And then it just ends. That's the end of the episode.
So, so then episode 14 goes back to Destrati High,
Yeah.
and Yamaguchi tells his council, "Hey, I finally chose my second in command, and it's a guy that's a ventriloquist." He starts off with one puppet, then he pulls out another one, and while all this is going on, Ishikawa's like getting pissed off because, and like the group is like, "Okay, well, who's actually the second in command?"
Yeah,
He's
they're
like,
like trying to figure out like who is number like who would be his number 2, and Yamaguchi's just like, "Oh, I got it. We can make you number and then you 2." And he's like, "What do you call me, poop?" He's like, "No, I'm not calling you that."
"Yeah,"
Yeah,
and
then like, yeah, stupid. And that's when it brings out the other dummy. And they're like, "Wait a minute, 3 people? How's that gonna work?" And they're just going along with it. The freaking dummies as like actual human beings.
yeah,
And so, what's the other guy's name? The blonde-haired guy? What's his name?
Ishikawa.
Yeah, Ishikawa is just like, what? Like
And
he's just puzzled.
yeah, and he goes to try and question it, and Yamaguchi's like, "Don't you say it. If you say it, I'm gonna beat you up." And so he ends up leaving, and he's like all depressed and stuff, and he's just sitting by himself in a park. And he's talking to himself about like how he wishes that he could do ventriloquism too. And then Kamiyama pops up and teaches him.
Yeah, he's like, "How's it going?" Like with his own freaking dummy.
Yeah, and pulls the same trick that the ventriloquist guy did,
Oh
where
yeah, where he can delay his voice.
yeah, and so then the episode ends with Ishikawa coming in, and he's doing ventriloquism with his own puppet, but it's like
A very ugly puppet. My God, that was hideous.
but it's more of a traditional like wooden puppet where
Yeah,
like
it
the
looks
jaw
like
moves
Slapstick
and stuff.
almost from Goosebumps.
Yeah, and so he impresses Yamaguchi, and Yamaguchi's like, "All right, I've changed my mind. This is what the new order of the council is going to be." And it zooms in on the puppet, and then it zooms out, and it shows the first ventriloquist holding it, making it talk. Ishikawa's like, "Don't they know how expensive that was?"
Yeah, and then that's the end of that episode.
Yeah. So
So you can tell from our laughter, this is a very, 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 very dumb but funny show.
yes.
Yeah, the thing, it's funny. Okay, here, let me get into a little bit of a critique of it though. I think it's funny. Don't get me wrong, it's funny. I just didn't realize how dumb it was going to be, I think. So like with how I was kind of caught off guard by it, but also because like I think the animation needed to be a little more lively as well. Like I think if the animation was like a lot more fluid or a lot more like what's the word I'm looking for? Like out
But that's the
there.
thing. They even poke fun at that. So
Oh,
it's part
okay.
of the joke. Like there's a I think it was like episode 2 or whatever. At the very beginning, Kamiyama's like sitting there talking to the audience, and he's not moving, and he's talking about like animation tropes and stuff like that. And then he's like, "Oh my gosh, there hasn't been any movement for like the whole last 2 minutes." And then he
Yeah, he's like,
drops
oh
his
god,
pencil again.
yeah, he's just like, oh my gosh, animation's moving again. He's like, this is
So
an anime, right?
yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm so used to seeing like other like anime comedies that actually are like very expressive with their characters when it comes to
well,
comedic.
yeah,
That's why
but
I think I'm just used to that.
yeah, but that's part of the running joke with this series is like
Mhm.
it's like the detail is very good,
Yeah, no, like the details are very good.
but
I
it's very
think,
minimalistic.
yeah, it's just odd to me. I'm just like, oh, I think I would have preferred something a little bit more like, just like, I don't know, like if what's a good style, I guess. Like if we got Trigger to animate this, I think it
Yeah,
would be freaking phenomenal with the comedy and like the animation. I think it would look great because I think Trigger does a really good job with their timing in comedic in terms of like comedy with their animation. So I feel like it would have
yeah,
been great. But I mean, it's still funny. I just think that if Trigger animated this, I think it would have been freaking hilarious.
yeah. So
But it's still good. I still
yeah,
enjoyed it. I still enjoyed part of it.
yeah. Like I said, it's a fun series that I enjoy watching, and it's just one that like you don't really have to think about. You don't
Yeah, that's the thing
even
that's good
pay
about it, at
attention
least.
to it.
Like, when I'm, like, watching it, I'm like, "Okay, I don't have to think at all with watching this. I just watch it and I move on." That's literally all I have to do.
So my next question is: do we want to do the other half for next week, or do we want to move on to a movie for next week?
Ooh, what should we do?
Because there is a set of episodes towards the end of the series where all the guys become girls, but they just look like they're wearing wigs.
Oh.
So,
I think I remember you telling me that. Uh, I don't know, I'm good with either, actually. I guess it's up to you, which one you would wanna do.
I mean, I'm kind of up for finishing it to see what your conclusion is to the whole thing, but
Mhm.
I'm not opposed to just going on to a movie and then maybe coming back at a later time and doing the other half when we need a break again or something.
Okay. Uh, we could probably We could probably finish the other half.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm fine with that.
All right. So then next week we'll finish up the series with episodes 15 through 26
Yes.
and talk about all the craziness that goes on in these last several episodes.
Yep.
So, and we'll call it a day there. So,
All right.
if you've been watching to this point, we thank you for checking us out. Please hit the like and subscribe button. We are a new channel and we're trying to grow, so all that helps us. And please share. And then don't forget to leave a comment about what you think we should review in the future, and we'll definitely add it to the list of shows. So
Yes, and if you've seen Cromartie High School, give us your thoughts. What do you think about it? And if not, did our attempt at trying to rationalize this show make you want to go see it yourself? Explain. Tell us in the comments.
yeah, if you need a good laugh, it's definitely worth checking out. So
Yeah, it does a good job of doing that.
yes. All right. Thanks again for checking us out. Hope to see you next time, and have a good weekend.
Farewell.